cool. Let's find our comfortable sitting position. Same as always, it doesn't matter what that looks like. If you don't fancy crossing the legs, you could pop them out in front and maybe have a little bit of a move from one side to another. Maybe have a little notice if something in the body doesn't feel fantastic. Just getting into the kind of swing of things, building a little focus and concentration. And once you've got the body where you want it, let the hands fall wherever they fall. Doesn't need to be special. And then take a big inhale and grow as tall as you can on the mat. Maybe tucking the chin ever so slightly towards the chest to exhale. Take one last inhale. And on the exhale, notice the sit on the mat. Notice how you feel. Block out all the external noise and bring all the focus inward. And start to notice the inhale and the exhale. Just building some concentration by focusing on the one thing that's a constant. Just feeling the breaths in and the breaths out. Ideally, we want to be still, but if something's bothering you and causing you to kind of draw your attention away from the breath, change the thing. It doesn't matter if you do little movements, it's really not the end of the world. Let's take one more inhale. And one more exhale. Let's blink the eyes open. And let's start to do a little bit of moving. So we're going to start with our hand circle of joy. So you can drop the hands down beside the body and we'll open up through the arms and shoulders. Take a big breath in, hands out to the sides of the room, stretching as far as we can to lift them up overhead. Make a prayer at the top. And exhale the prayer down past the nose and mouth towards the chest. Let's interlace the fingers together, point the palms towards the face, breathe in, lift up. And exhale, turn the hands out, push the arms away, drop the head down. Maybe get a little movement into the sides of the ribs if you wish. And on an inhale, let's lift the arms up overhead. If you've got extra space, feel free to wiggle them behind the ears. And exhale, drop the arms out to the side, still stretching, bring them behind the body, interlace the fingers together. If you've got space, maybe pulling the shoulder blades in towards one another, lifting the hands from the lower spine. And exhale, releasing the arms back down. Give everything a little bit of a shake. We're going to drop one hand down onto the mat. I don't mind which one you go with. And we're going to inhale to lift the other arm overhead, coming to our side bend. So think about actively opening through that long side of the body, whichever side you've chosen. Maybe you can drop the full elbow down onto the mat. If you've got space for it, go for it. Maybe the other thing to think about is starting to twist the chest towards the ceiling so you could look up, opening out through the side a little extra. Take a breath in and an exhale. And on the next inhale, let's bring it all back through center. Drop the other hand to the mat and come to our side opener on the opposite side. So same thing goes. If you can drop onto the elbow, go for it. Why not? But also think about twisting the chest a little bit towards the ceiling so that we can look up, lengthening through the hand and the arm, really opening out that full side of the body. Take a breath in and an exhale. And on the inhale, let's bring it all back to center. Let's drop the arms back down, maybe give the shoulders a little bit of a wiggle. We're going to come to our tabletop position, dropping the hands down on the mat, swinging the legs around, and finding a little bit of comfort here. Make sure that it feels sustainable. We're going to come for our cat-cow. So take a breath in, lift the head up and drop the belly down to make a little curve in the spine. And exhale, round the spine, pulling the chin towards the chest, really pushing against the mat as much as you can. And then inhale, lift the head up, drop the belly down again. And exhale, tucking the chin towards the chest, rounding the spine. It's up to you how much of a challenge you want this to be. Take one last inhale, lift the head up, drop the belly down. And on the exhale, let's bring it all back to neutral in the center. Have a look at the hands, and we're going to turn the hands out towards the sides of the mat. And then we're going to start to rock a little bit from one side to another. Everyone feels this a little bit differently. So if it's immediately super uncomfortable, feel free to rock a little bit less. That's fine. Once you've rocked 3 or 4 times in that direction, we're going to turn the hands again so that they're pointing back towards the knees. So this might be particularly intense, and same thing goes. You can have a little rock forwards and backwards, or you can avoid rocking if it's already super intense. It's super intense for me. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, let's start to undo this. Let's point the hands back towards the top of the mat. And then we're going to go completely upside down. So we've done this before. It's up to you how quickly or slowly you want to do it. You can flip one hand upside down so that the palm is facing up towards the ceiling. And then if you want to, you can add the second one. But if you need to space them out and do one at a time, space them out and do one at a time. Take a breath in. And an exhale. Take one more inhale, and then let's start to release the hands back to their natural position. Maybe lower down onto the forearms and give the wrist a little bit of a swing in both directions, maybe clenching the fingers and reopening them, just releasing some of the tension that we've built up. And then we're going to plant the hands back on the mat. We've built them up really strong now. They're plenty warm. We're going to separate the fingers out nice and wide, pushing down into the knuckles of the hands. We're going to come for our downward dog. So tucking the toes underneath, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling for our first downward dog. So it's up to you. You can keep the knees bent if you wish. With the knees bent, maybe you'll be able to lift the hips just a little bit higher. But if you fancy it and you feel ready, maybe you can start to pedal the feet a little bit, lengthening out through the backs of the legs. Totally up to you what you choose to do. Maybe you fancy moving the hips from one side to another. Find the points of tension or stiffness in the body and just try to challenge them. Take a big breath in, lift the hips as high as we can. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees and look forward. Let's inhale, step the right foot forward and the left foot forward. Let's grab hold of opposite elbows, take a little sway from one side to another. If you want to release the hands down towards the feet and let them sway even more wildly, go for it, that's fine. And then we'll bring it back to center. We're going to bend the knees a little bit. And we're going to inhale to roll up to standing, vertebra by vertebra, till we're back upright on the mat. And let's go with our Surya Namaskara A, our first sun salute. Take a breath in, arms up overhead, look up towards the ceiling. And exhale, fold the hands down towards the mat. Bend the knees as much as you need to. Inhale to the fingertips or bringing the hands to the shins, lengthen through the backs of the legs. And exhale, let's plant the hands. Step the right foot back and the left foot back to our plank. And let's lower it down. Knees first if you wish, tucking the elbows in. Inhale forward for our cobra, really dropping the shoulders from the ears. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up. Downward dog. Free to do the same variation of things here. If you need to pedal the feet, go for it. If you prefer to keep the knees bent, that's fine. If at any point you just want to rest, drop the knees to the floor and take a child's pose, no issue. Maybe have a glance forward at the hands. Make sure you're pushing down with the knuckles. Take one more inhale. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees, look forward. Inhale, step or jump it to the top of the mat. Lengthen through the backs of the legs, reach those fingertips down towards the floor. And exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Inhale, let's push into the feet, lengthen through the backs of the legs, reach the arms up overhead, gaze up. And exhale, back to standing, mountain pose. Second time, inhale, arms up overhead, gaze up. And exhale, let's fold the hands down to the mat, bend the knees. Inhale to the fingertips, lengthen the backs of the legs. And exhale, plant the hands, step or jump it back to our plank. And let's lower it down. Inhale forward to our cobra or upward dog. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. If you've gotten to a point where the hamstrings feel pretty strong, pretty open, kind of warm, maybe you can start to add a little bit of extra challenge to this. If you want to, you could maybe step the feet forward a little bit, pushing the heels down closer to the mat, taking big inhales and exhales according to what you need. And then take one more big inhale. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees and look forward. Inhale, step or jump it to the top of the mat. Lengthen through the backs of the legs, reach the fingertips towards the floor. And exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Inhale, let's straighten the legs, reach the arms up overhead, gaze up. And exhale, back to standing, mountain pose. Surya Namaskara B. Take a breath in, arms up overhead, and let's sit back into our chair, Utkatasana. And exhale the hands down to the mat, keep the knees bent. Inhale to the fingertips, lengthen the backs of the legs. And exhale, plant the hands, step or jump it back to our plank, and let's lower down. Inhale forward to our cobra or upward dog. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. If you're still in a position where you feel like you need to stretch out the backs of the hamstrings a little bit, pedal the feet as much as you need to. Nobody's saying that you need to be super still all the time. It's sort of up to you to find whether you want your downward dog to be a challenge or not a challenge. Maybe every inhale, think about lifting the hips a little taller. And on the next exhale, let's bend the knees and gaze forward. Inhale, step or jump it to the top of the mat. Lengthen through the backs of the legs, reach those fingertips towards the floor. And exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Inhale, let's straighten the legs, reach the arms up overhead, and then sit down into our chair. And exhale, back to standing. Second time around. Take a breath in, arms up overhead, sit down into our Utkatasana. And exhale, hands to the floor, knees bent. Inhale to the fingertips, lengthen the backs of the legs. And exhale, plant the hands, step or jump it back to our plank, and let's lower it down. Inhale forward to our upward dog or cobra, drop the shoulders from the ears. And exhale, tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. Let's inhale the right leg forward between the hands. Let's drop the left heel down, stretch the arms up overhead, front leg bent for our warrior one. And exhale, fold the hands back down to the mat, step the right foot back and lower it down from our plank. Inhale, forward to our cobra or upward dog. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. Let's inhale that left foot forward between the hands, drop the right heel down, stretch the arms up overhead, front leg bent. And exhale, fold the hands back to the mat, step the left foot back and lower it down. Inhale forward for our cobra or up dog. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. Everything should feel a little bit warmer now. So parts of the body that maybe felt a bit stiff, maybe don't anymore, especially the backs of the legs. But do whatever you need to or want to. Any extra movements that we've not built in that you fancy, add them in, no problem. Take an inhale and an exhale. One last inhale, lifting the hips. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees, look forward. Inhale, step or jump it to the top of the mat. Lengthen through the backs of the legs, reaching those fingertips to the floor. And exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Same thing as last time. Let's inhale, straighten the legs, reach the arms up overhead. And just as we get there, let's sit back down into our chair, Utkatasana. And exhale, back to standing. Coming to our full Tadasana. Take a breath in and an exhale. On the next inhale, let's lift the arms up overhead, tall and straight as we can get them. And on the exhale, let's sit back down into our chair, Utkatasana. So let's give ourselves a couple of seconds here to find the right position. Big inhale. And then think about tucking the ribs in underneath, tucking the tailbone in behind. And when you come to your next exhale, maybe sitting a little bit lower if you've got space, and if you don't have space, that's fine. Every breath in, try to lift the hands a little higher. Every exhale, try to sit a little lower. Take one more inhale. And on the exhale, let's float the torso forward and down, stretching the arms out in front, maybe getting the torso onto the legs if you can reach. Breathe in. And on the exhale, maybe sitting a little lower, bringing those thighs to parallel with the mat. Inhale. And exhale. Take one last inhale. Well done, everybody. And on the exhale, let's start to straighten the legs, reaching the hands down towards the feet, really luxuriating that release of the stretch. And then let's separate the feet out to hip width distance or further if you fancy it. And see if we can loop the peace fingers around the big toes for our Padangusthasana. If you can't get to the big toes or you don't want to, you can always hang on to the back of the ankles instead, totally fine. Take a big breath in, lengthen through the backs of the legs. And on the exhale, maybe bend the elbows out to the side. Maybe let the head drop fully towards the floor. Breathe in. And exhale. Take one more inhale. These look really, really good. And on the exhale, release the hands from the feet and let them sit in front for a little bit. We're going to take one more breath in. And on the exhale, we're going to lift the feet away from the floor and slot the hands underneath the soles of the feet so that the toes are sort of pointing up towards the wrists. It doesn't matter how far you get. It doesn't matter if your knees are super bent. That's absolutely fine. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, maybe fiddle about with the weight a little bit. Maybe tip the body forward so that the balls of the feet come down to massage the hands. And then maybe tip the body backwards as well and notice that the hands will want to release from the feet. Forwards with a little rocking motion, balls of the feet into the hands for massage. And then let's pull it back to our normal neutral position, kind of hard to find after all that. Let's release the hands from the feet, straighten the backs of the legs, fingertips towards the floor. Let's take a little bend in the knees on an exhale, bring the hands to the hips, and super slowly we're going to roll up to standing. Take your time. You don't need to straighten the legs until you're the whole way up if you don't want to. Groovy. And then let's release the hands back down by the sides and maybe give everything a little bit of a wiggle. Release some of that tension that we've built up. And then we're going to keep the right foot pointed forward and we're going to step the left foot back out behind us, getting ready for our warrior two position. So right foot ahead, back foot in our 90-degree angle. Let's bring the arms to our parallel position. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, let's bend over that right knee. General sets of adjustments and alignments for people. Want to make sure that the bum's not kind of jutting out to the side. So pull everything back in line. Keep the ribs tucked in front. The column of the body should be super strong. Take an inhale. And on the exhale, maybe you can open that right leg out to the side a little bit more so that you can see your big toe inside your right knee. Breathe in. And on the exhale, let's drop the left hand to the back of the left leg. Sweep the right arm overhead, opening out to the side of the body. Inhale. And exhale. Let's inhale, bring it all back to center, arms to parallel. And let's get ready to step forward to our warrior three. So pushing down into that right knee, bending it a little bit further, step the left foot off the mat, flying forward to our warrior three position, and give yourself a few seconds to find the balance. Also give yourself a few seconds to find your brick or your hardback book. So left leg is in the sky, and we're thinking about tipping the hips so that they're square towards the mat. Do what you need to with the arms. I don't mind what you do with them at all. Stretching them alongside the body works for me. It helps the torso to drop a little bit lower. Take an inhale. And on the exhale, let's find the block. Let's bring it alongside the right side of the body. So close enough to the right foot, or it might be further out in front, depending on what you prefer. We're going to start to think about turning the left hip towards the ceiling, really leaning on that block where we need to, and then eventually reaching the left hand up towards the sky and maybe looking up to the sky ourselves as well. These look really, really good. Shaking a little bit is no issue. It's a really big ask to take a half moon pose. If you feel like you're going to fall out of it, Oshin's just fallen out of it, that's fine. Fall out of it, no big deal. Wherever you're at, take one big inhale. And on the exhale, let's softly, gently lower the left foot back to the mat. Let's swing the arms back to our parallel position, into our warrior two. Take a breath in, and an exhale. Take one more inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to float the hands forward down onto the mat. And then we're going to wiggle the right foot out to the side of the mat so that the hands are inside that right foot. We're going to pivot onto the left toes. And we're going to start to swing the body forwards and backwards a little bit, opening out through the hip joint. Really move the block out of the way at this point. Maybe you can drop down onto the left knee. Maybe you can fold onto the forearms in front of the body. Maybe you need to move that right foot slightly forward or back. That's fine too. Do what you need to do to make it more accessible or comfortable. And if you find that you've got the space, maybe you can lift the right arm off the floor. Use it to push the right knee open out to the side so that the outer edge of the right foot is the one that touches the mat. Breathe in. And exhale. On the next inhale, let's start to roll the leg back in if you've rolled it out. Let's come back onto the hands, really flatten them on the mat. We're going to tuck the left toes underneath. We're going to lift the left knee off the floor, and we're going to step the right foot back to join the left in our plank and lower it down. Knees first. Inhale forward for our cobra or upward dog, still dropping the shoulders from the ears. And exhale, tuck the toes, lift the hips back up. Downward dog. Take a couple of breaths in and out. Let some of the heat and energy dissipate because we're going to do the same thing on the other side and that's not going to be any easier. Breathe in. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees and gaze forward between the hands. Let's inhale, step the left foot forward, drop the right heel down, swing the arms upright to parallel, and we're here in our warrior two already. Because we've come at it from our plank and our downward dog, you might be in a weird alignment, so have a little look. Left foot pointing forward, right foot at 90 degrees behind it, the heel of your left foot lining up with your back arch. Breathe in, and on the exhale, maybe bending a little extra over that left leg. Think about tucking the ribs, tucking the tailbone, keeping the center of the body really strong. And then maybe have a look down at that left leg, push it open to the side a little bit so that you can definitely see the big toe inside the left knee. Breathe in. And exhale, drop the right hand to the back of the right leg, swoop the left arm overhead and behind, opening out through the side of the body in reverse warrior. Inhale. And exhale. And on the inhale, let's bring it all back through center to our warrior two. We're going to get ready to step forward to our warrior three position. So make sure that you can push down really deeply into that left knee and take one gentle step forward to warrior three, lengthening that left leg against the floor. I nearly fell over. You can reach the hands alongside the body, outside, totally up to you. Give yourself a few seconds to find the balance. Think about squaring the hips towards the mat. And the lower you get the torso and the higher you get the right leg, the less likely you are to fall over, but that doesn't make it easier. Breathe in. And on the exhale, let's reach for our brick or our book or whatever we've used. Let's drop the left hand on top of that, bearing down a little bit. And let's start to turn the right hip towards the ceiling, opening that hip joint out towards the sky, stretching the right arm up overhead into our full half moon position. Again, these look really, really good on this side. Take big, gentle inhales and gentle exhales as well. This is the kind of position where if you breathe too hard, you might fall over. Take a big breath in wherever you're at. And on the exhale, let's really gently lower that right leg back to the mat, moving the brick out of the way. And let's bring it back to our warrior two. Cool. Take one inhale here. And on the exhale, let's float the hands down to the mat. Let's shuffle the left leg out to the side so that we've got a bit more space. Let's pivot onto the right toes and maybe rock forwards and backwards into the hip joint. If you want to, drop the right knee onto the floor. Maybe you can drop the forearms to the mat. Totally up to you what you want to do, anything that's extra. If you wish to, you can lift the left hand away from the mat and use it to push the left knee open out to the side so that the outer edge of the left foot is against the mat instead. Take a breath in and an exhale. And on the inhale, let's start to roll that foot back to center if we've had it pushed to the side. Let's bring back onto the hands so that we're pushing flat against the mat. Let's tuck the right toes underneath, lift the right knee, and let's swing the left hand back to join the left, swing the left foot back to join the right in our plank. And let's lower it down. Inhale forward to our cobra or upward dog. And exhale, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips back up. Downward dog. If you want to, you can drop down onto the knees, bring the bum onto the heels, and take a little child's pose here. That's absolutely fine. Otherwise, inhale to lift a little bit higher. And exhale, pushing the heels down towards the mat. Take one more breath in here. Let's meet back in our downward dog if you've moved out of it. Breathe out. And on the next inhale, let's lift the right leg up towards the sky. Let's bend the right knee and let's bring the leg completely forward towards the top of the mat for our pigeon pose. So we're bending the right knee, which should land near enough to the right wrist. You can drop the left leg and you can shuffle it out behind you a little bit. If you know you've got lots of space in the hip, maybe you can grab hold of the right foot and shuffle it forward a little bit. Find a nice position where this is going to make a big stretch. Take a breath in, lengthen and lift with the spine. And on the exhale, fold the torso forward and down into our little sleeping pigeon position. So if you want to, you can let the head rest on the hands. You could just let the head hang in midair, that's fine too. If you still have your block to hand, you can also rest the head on the block, which is kind of nice. It's nice to have something supporting you. Wherever you're at, maybe you want extra from this hip stretch or maybe you want less. If you want extra, maybe you can start to rock a little bit from one side to another and find the most intense version of this to sit with. If you want less, maybe rocking persistently will help you find less. If you find that you've gone too far and you sort of need to dial it back a little bit, tuck the right knee and the right foot back in towards the center of the body. It should release a little bit of tension. Breathe in and exhale. Take one more inhale here. And on the exhale, let's start to release the hands from wherever they're at, spreading them out towards the side of the mat. Let's inhale to sit everything upright. We're going to stay in this position for a second, and we're going to see if we can bend the left knee. So we're going to bend the left knee, pulling that left foot in towards the body. This is a thing where you might come about 2 inches, and that's too much, and that's fine. You don't need to do it. Maybe you can reach back with the right hand and grab hold of the left foot. So we're pulling that left foot in towards the body a little bit. Inhale and exhale. This might be a really big stretch in the quad muscle. Take one more breath in. And on the exhale, we're going to gently release that foot back down to the mat. Bring the right hand back to the front. Tuck the left toes underneath. Lift the left knee off the floor. And let's step the right foot back to join the left in a downward dog. If you've got bad circulation, you can look at your feet and one of them might be a different color now, which is what happens to mine. So because you've been sitting on your foot and your leg for a little bit of time, it might feel a little bit stiff. That's fine. Take a big breath in, lift the hips, and an exhale. On the next inhale, let's lift the left leg up towards the sky. Let's bend the left knee and let's bring that leg forward the whole way to the top of the mat. Left knee landing somewhere near the left wrist. Let's release the right leg, shuffle it out behind. And if you find you've got the space, grab hold of that left foot and pull it forward a little bit. Take a big inhale, lengthen through the spine. And on the exhale, let's fold the torso forward and down. It's up to you where you drop the head. You can do something different this time to last time, that's fine. And if you want to, you can do the rocking from side to side thing. Or if you've gone too far, you can tuck the left foot and the left leg back in towards the center of the body. Totally up to you. This is a really nice position to just close the eyes in and let the head hang a little bit. Letting the heart rate come down and the breathing rate come down. Let's take one more inhale. And on the exhale, let's start to lift the head. Let's start to move the hands towards the sides of the mat. And let's breathe in to lift the torso upright. So same thing on this side. We're going to see if we can bend the knee, pulling that foot in towards the bum. You might not get very far, and one side could feel really different to the other. That's fine. If you can, maybe reaching back with the left hand to grab hold of the right foot. Trying to keep as much integrity through the center of the body as we can. So if it just proves to be too much, just let it go. It doesn't matter. If you do like it, maybe pulling a little bit further on an inhale. And on the exhale, let's release the foot very gently back to the mat, hand back in front. Let's tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, and step the left foot back to join the right in our downward dog. Take a big breath in, lift the hips. And on the exhale, let's bend the knees, look forward. Inhale, step the right foot forward and the left foot forward. And let's really slowly start to lift it all up to standing. Take your time. It doesn't need to be quick. So we're going to come for our tree pose and our balance. So we want to make sure that we don't have too much labored breathing for that. Find a position that suits you, preferably not near something you lean on, like a cheat, so that we're not tempted towards that. You can separate the feet out to about hip width distance if you like. If you prefer to have the legs close together, fine by me, makes no difference. We're going to push down into the right foot first. So really flooring the foot into the mat until we can maybe lift the left leg away, nice and gently. And once you've got a sense of that balance, you can bring the left foot to whatever variation you please. Ankle, calf, inside of upper thigh. If you want to go with the half lotus position, go for it. I'm not going to tempt fate today. Once you find that balance, you can bring the hands to the center of the chest, make a little prayer. And what happens next is totally up to you. You can inhale, lift the arms up overhead and open them like branches. Think about tucking the ribs in, tucking the elbows underneath, tucking the tailbone underneath. If you want to go in the opposite direction from prayer, you can also exhale, start to tip the torso forward, reaching the hands down towards the floor. Totally up to you which variation you pick. Because we've done quite a lot of hip openers and we've been crunched over a bit, I like the idea of reaching up and opening. Maybe if you're in the upright position, you might think about making some moves with the body, one side to another, sort of interfering with your own balance a little bit, trying to make it more of a challenge. Maybe you can ramble about with the arms and the wrists, lifting them up and down or overhead. And maybe you can think about tipping forwards and backwards and seeing what that does to the balance as well. You might end up looking a bit ridiculous, but that's no harm. Wherever you're at, if you're upright, on an exhale, bring the hands back to prayer at center of the chest. If you're reaching towards the floor, on an inhale, start to lift everything upright. And we'll all meet back in the same position. Prayer at the chest, take a breath in. And on the exhale, let's release the hands and let's release the foot back down to the mat and maybe shake the right foot out. Same thing, opposite side. So preferably go with whatever you did first time around. Let's try and repeat it at least. We're going to push down into the left foot, make sure we've got good balance. so that we can lift the right foot away. Take your time about it. It doesn't need to be quick. And then you can find the variation. If you found on the first side that the leg variation really didn't work, change it. It's not the end of the world. And once you've got your position, maybe bring the arms to center of the chest, make a little prayer. And same thing goes, your choice. You can inhale to lift the prayer up, or you can exhale and start to tip forward towards the mat, reaching the hands down towards the floor. It's up to you how much of a stretch you want this to be. You can stop wherever you want to, and you can dial it back whenever you want to as well. If you've reached up, same thing, maybe challenge the balance. Go in different directions, tip things forward and backwards. If you fall out, just get back in, no big deal. Part of the reason for tree pose is that it does test the balance. So if we stand still in it every time, we won't ever really improve. Wherever you're at, take an inhale if you're up top and bring the hands back towards the center of the chest on an exhale. And if you're reaching down towards the floor, inhale to lift everything back up, right hands to prayer. Let's take one more inhale here. And on the exhale, let's release the right leg down to the mat and shake the left leg out. Well done. Cool. Let's step it back to the top of the mat so we've got lots of space behind us. And let's take a breath in, arms up overhead, gaze up to the ceiling. And exhale, fold the hands down to the mat. Bend the knees as much as you want to. Inhale to the fingertips, lengthen the backs of the legs. Maybe notice if that's a lot easier now than it was at the beginning. And exhale, plant the hand, step or jump it back to our plank. And let's lower it down. Inhale forward to our cobra, really dropping the shoulders from the ears. And exhale, tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward dog. Take one breath in here. And on the exhale, let's come forward to sitting. At long last, says everybody. We'll stretch the legs out in front of us to take our dandasana. This is our four-limbed staff pose. So we're going to point the toes up towards the ceiling. We're going to take a big breath in, lengthen through the spine. Imagine that there's a little string running from the top of your head to the top of your bum, and pull the string so that the spine lifts and the chest tilts forward a little bit. Think about engaging the quad muscles. So we're really pulling with the muscles as much as we can. So both sides of the torso and the legs are doing something. Take a big breath in. You can rest the hands beside the bum, or you can rest them on the thighs. You can stretch them out in front if you fancy, totally up to you. Inhale. And exhale, keeping the same position, spine super straight, maybe tucking the chin towards the chest a little more, engaging with the quads. Take one more breath in. And on the exhale, let's release it all down. Maybe give the legs a little bit of a wiggle. Amazing. We're going to take our Janu Shirshasana. So we're going to pull the right leg in towards the chest as tight as we possibly can. And then we're going to drop that leg out to the side of the body. We're going to push the sole of the foot against the inside of the thigh. Have a little wiggle. Make sure this is as comfortable as we can possibly be. And then let's take a breath in, arms up overhead. Let's twist a little bit to the left and fold forward over the left foot. So we're going to take two bends here in our Janu Shirshasana. So when we come back upright, we'll be coming in for a revolved variation of this. So take the opportunity to find a little bit of comfort here. If that means that you don't reach the foot with both hands, cool, doesn't matter. You can always hang on to the leg instead. If you've started to tip the torso to the left, maybe tip it back towards the center so that we're keeping the reaching arms in parallel. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, if we've got space, maybe continue to fold forward. Really depends on the person and on the day. You might find that one side is a lot stiffer than the other two, and there might be days when this feels like total hell, and other days it'll feel absolutely fine. Take an inhale. And one last exhale. On the inhale, let's lift the arms up overhead, bringing our torso back upright, and exhale the hands out to the side. Cool. So you're going to take our little revolved Janu, which means that we're going to shift the left hand towards the foot, and we're going to sweep the right arm overhead, almost like we could reach the toes. It's not necessary to reach the toes. So you can take a big inhale and reach forward with the left hand to grab the foot or the leg, and then lift the right arm overhead, circling it around almost like you could touch the toes. The trick to this is that we want to keep the chest open to the ceiling. So if you find that by reaching too far forward, you curve yourself back down so you're pointing towards the floor, lift that right hand a little bit higher. Point the chest towards the ceiling, maybe look up a little bit if you can. So revolving this can feel a little bit uncomfortable. If you feel like you've gone too far, just dial it back. Doesn't matter. Take a big inhale and an exhale. And on the next inhale, let's release the left hand. Let's inhale both arms up overhead, circling the torso back towards the front. And let's exhale it all down. Everybody's grateful that that's over with. We're going to point the left toes forward. We're going to bring the right hand behind us onto the floor. We're going to push into all the points of the body on the mat. And we're going to lift the torso upward, turning it into a little back bend, stretching the left arm out behind for our wild thing. I wish that had a more Sanskrit-y professional name, but it doesn't. It's up to you how much of a back bend you want to take. Maybe you're keeping things pretty straight, or maybe you're really luxuriating into the curve. Up to you. Breathe in. And on the exhale, let's slowly start to sit it back down. Be careful you don't sit on your own foot. That's not very pleasant when it happens. And then we're going to pop the right leg out in front, and we are going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Every time, it's like a surprise. We're pulling the left leg in towards the chest, in as tight as we can, and then drop it out towards the side, pushing the sole of the foot against the inside of the thigh, and then trying to find a comfortable way to sit here. Genuinely really tricky. Take a breath in with the arms up overhead, twist a little bit to the right, and exhale, fold forward over that right foot. So remember what I said first time around. The second side of this might not be particularly nice. You might need to release the foot and instead hang on to the leg. That's fine. Same thing goes if you've tipped towards the right. Maybe think about tipping the torso back towards the center, bringing the arms to parallel. Breathe in. And on the exhale, if you've got space, maybe bow forward a little bit extra. Totally up to you. Really using the exhale to find extra space if you've got it, and nobody's saying that you have to have it, so that's fine. Take one more inhale. And one more exhale. Let's release the hands. Inhale to lift them upright, straightening the torso. And exhale them back down by the sides. Same thing this side with our revolution. So we're going to take a breath in, reach that right arm forward towards the right foot. If you can't get to the foot, you've got ankles, hang on to the ankle instead. And once you've got a good grip, reaching the left arm up overhead and curving it over the body towards the side. If you're lucky enough that your left arm can actually reach your right toes, go for it. But we still want to make sure that the chest is pointing towards the ceiling. And maybe even we want to look up a little bit, but if it's nasty on the neck, you can skip that. Take a breath in and an exhale, revolving a little more. This is sort of like our triangle pose, but upside down and sitting. On the next inhale, let's lift the arms back upright. Let's twist the torso back towards the front. And let's drop the arms down by the sides. Well done, not easy. We're going to point the right toes forward. We're going to bring the left hand behind us onto the mat. Going to take a breath in, push against all the points of the body that are against the mat. Lift the torso upright into a back bend, maybe reaching the right arm behind us into our wild thing. And same thing goes, it's totally up to you how much of a back bend you want. Maybe you want to keep it in a straight line, that's fine. And if at any point you feel like you're going to collapse, just come down, no big deal. Take a big inhale. And on the exhale, let's start to sit everything back down on the mat. Nice and slowly, take your time. And we're going to pop the left leg out in front, give both legs a bit of a shake. They have done massive work the whole way through this. And then we're going to pull the legs in together to take our little side twist. So we're going to cross the legs over. Then we're going to bring one hand to the outer edge of the opposite leg. Bring the backwards arm behind us. Take a breath in, lengthen through the spine. And on the exhale, folding the torso forward and around. Really notice the twist. Notice what happens in the hips and the ribs, in the chest and the shoulders, the neck, and finally the head. This isn't a twist where you'll get absolutely huge movement, and you don't need to force it. If you don't fancy going too far, don't go too far. Definitely, if you ate something before you came to class, don't go too far in a twist. It is deeply unpleasant in the belly. Wherever you're at, take a big inhale. And on the exhale, let's round it all back towards the center and go with the opposite side. So grabbing hold of the outside of the other leg, bringing the arm behind us onto the floor, breathing in to lengthen with the spine. And on the exhale, twisting everything around. Think about the hips, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. If you don't fancy twisting the head around, that's fine, you don't need to. It's just the end point of the twist, and nobody's saying that you have to do it specifically, particularly if your neck feels a bit stiff or uncomfortable. Take one more inhale here. And on the exhale, let's bring it all back around to center. And then maybe take a little sway or a wiggle from one side to another, releasing everything and giving the spine a bit of space. Amazing. Then we're going to rest the hands on the knees. You might find that they move a little bit during this, but for now, rest them on the knees. And we're going to explore the concave and convex curve of the spine, sort of like in our cat-cows. So when you think about it, in cat-cow, you push the torso and the belly forward to create a curve in the spine. And then later on, you tuck the chin towards the chest and you round the spine behind you. So you're creating this kind of inward and outward motion. So we're going to do some circles with that. We've definitely done it before, but it's nice to kind of go back over things. Take a big breath in and lengthen through the spine. And on the exhale, fold the torso forward and down. So we're keeping the spines pretty straight here. And then we're going to try and curve it forward a little bit. So maybe you can lift the head and look forward. And then we're going to start to dip to one side. We're going to start to turn a big circle. And as you come to the back of that circle, make it the opposite direction. So we're rounding the spine, creating this big beach ball sensation in front. And then we're dipping it back in front, curving the spine the other way again. So we're following through in these circles, finding the extremes of the curvature of the spine. Now that we're at the end of the practice and we've had all of this time to open out. Once you've done 2 or 3 circles, just flip it around, go in the opposite direction. But same premise, once you get to the back, we're really opening out with this beach ball shape. And in the front, we're tucking everything forwards and down. Usually when people are doing this for the first few times, they tend to think that they look really inelegant, and that's not what it is at all. Everybody always looks really, really lovely when they do this. It just feels like a lot. Once you've got 3 or so done on each side, we release it back to center, take a little bit of a sway, one side to another. And then we're going to release the feet and we're going to bring the soles of the feet together for our baddha kanasana. So we spent a lot of time in this practice on twists, revolutions, and hips. So we're going to go for our full baddha kanasana so we can pull the ankles and shift the legs in closer towards the groin so that the feet are just directly in front. You should already feel a little bit of a stretch in either hip joint or maybe in the back of the glutes. You can grab hold of the feet and open them out to the side like a book. It's quite hard to see on yourself, but when I do it, you can see my knees dropping towards the floor, and that's the motion we're aiming for. Take a big inhale, lengthen through the spine. And on the exhale, let's start to tip the torso forward and down. So imagine there's a big meter stick running from your head down to the top of your bum. That's your whole spinal line, and we want to try and keep it super straight. So we don't want to round the shoulders, we're not dropping the head, we're keeping the whole spine in a straight line the whole way down. Once you hit a point where you feel a really significant stretch in the hips, feel free to stop. If you've got extra space, maybe you can push the arms against the legs and help to facilitate you going a little bit further forward. But it's not about bending in two, it's about the stretch in the hips. And once you've got that, fine, you don't need to do anything different. Take an inhale. If you do have the extra space, use the exhale to go a little bit further, still pushing the hands against the legs if you're quite far forward. Bring the attention to the back of the neck. Notice whether it's long or whether it's short. Maybe you need to drop the head a little bit, tucking the chin towards the chest so that the head is in line with the rest of the spine as well. Take an inhale. And on the exhale, let's get ready to release everything. Releasing the hands from the feet and breathe in to sit everything upright. Amazing. Maybe give the legs a little bit of a wiggle. And then we're going to stretch the legs out in front, and we're going to come to our lying position for our final back bends. So make sure you've got space in front or behind according to what you need. Stretch the arms out in front and exhale to lower it all down. Once you've hit your lying position, make sure that your back feels comfortable. Move it around any way that you need to. And then we're going to bend the knees, pulling the feet in towards the bum. And it's totally up to you. You can take a bridge and a wheel. You can take 2 wheels. I don't mind at all. But the premise is exactly the same. If we're taking our bridge pose on a breath in, let's lift the hips away from the floor up towards the ceiling. Maybe you can interlace the hands beneath the body, pulling the shoulder blades in towards one another like we did at the very top of the class. Or maybe you don't like that and you just want to support the hips with the hands. Equally, if you've got the brick to hand, you could slot the brick underneath the lower back as well. It doesn't matter at all which variation of this you choose. We just want to get a little bit of a back bend in, get a last little bit of motion into the body when it's at its warmest and loosest. Everything should feel pretty strong, if a little bit tired, and hopefully there's no stiffness anywhere with this either. Wherever you're at, think about lifting the hips a little bit higher, pushing out through the knees and down into the feet. Even if you're up on tippy toes, you'll still feel the ability to push right down into the feet and root to the ground. Take one more breath in here. And on the exhale, let's start to lower it. Upper back, middle back, lower back to the mat. Really lovely. And then maybe windshield wipering the legs from one side to another. Or if you have developed some kind of tension or stiffness, take whatever other movement you want to take. Absolutely fine. And then we're going to come for our second back bend. So again, absolutely up to you what you choose to do. If you take bridge, we'll take a couple of different variations in it this time. If you want to go for full wheel, go for full wheel. That's absolutely fine. When you're ready, when you've got a big inhale prepared, let's lift the hips up towards the ceiling, feet flat on the floor, knees bent. And on the exhale, trying to hold that position as much as we can. If you're in bridge pose, maybe you can think about lifting one leg and then the other. You could also practice the same thing in wheel, but in wheel, give yourself a couple of seconds. Find the space for it. Really lovely. Take one more inhale. And on the exhale, let's start to lower it all back down. Upper back, middle back, lower back to the mat. And then maybe pull the knees in towards the chest, wrap the arms around the legs, give yourself a little hug. You can rock forward and back, you can rock from side to side. Do whatever you need to release any tension that we've built up with back bends. And then we're going to come to our last position, our Shavasana. So take your time, find some socks, find a jumper or a blanket. Do whatever you need to do to make it super comfortable. It's nice sometimes to feel comfortable at home, but equally, when you're doing a class like this, it's hard to find comfort. So feel free, take a couple of seconds, find the right position to be in. So for full Shavasana, usually we lie down on the mat, we point the toes towards the corners of the mat, we drop the arms down beside the body, point the palms up towards the ceiling. Maybe have a wiggle with the back, make sure that it feels comfortable. If you do have a lot of tension in the lower back, you can bring the knees to bent and rest the soles of the feet against the floor and let the knees join in towards one another so that you've got a sort of passive feeling in them and you don't need to hold them upright. And that should work just as well for Shavasana. So when we're all lying, maybe close the eyes. Take a big inhale. And on the exhale, have a think about all the things that the body has done. Feeling grateful for the fact that it's doable and achievable, even where it's hard. Take one more inhale. And on the exhale, relax the body completely into the mat. Let things feel heavy. Find a sensation of the floor rising up to meet you. A full relaxation of every part of the body. Maybe bringing the attention towards the foot, the right foot specifically. Bringing all the attention to the sole of the right foot. the right toes, the top of the right foot and the heel, the right shin, the right calf, all of your right knee, the long stretch of the right thigh, and then bringing all the attention to the left foot, the sole of the left foot, the left toes, the top of the left foot and the heel, the left shin, the left calf, the whole left knee, and the long stretch of the left thigh. Bring the focus to the hips, resting against the floor, the lower back, the stomach, the upper back and the shoulders, and then the right arm, the right elbow, the right forearm and wrist, palm of the right hand, the right fingers, and the top of the right hand. And then shifting the focus to the left arm, the left elbow, the left forearm and wrist, the palm of the left hand, the left fingers, the top of the left hand. And then moving all that attention to the back of the neck, to the head resting against the mat, to the crown of the head, the forehead, the right eye and the left eye, the nose, the right cheek and the left cheek, the lips, the teeth and the tongue, the chin, the right ear and the left ear. Then bringing all the attention back to the forehead, to the point between the eyebrows. Take an inhale and an exhale. Sink the body even deeper on the mat. And then let's start to bring a little bit of movement back into the fingers and toes, maybe wiggling the wrists and the ankles, maybe dropping the head from one side to another if you wish. And on a breath in, lifting the arms up overhead and taking a big long stretch, tips of the fingers right down to the toes. And exhale if you've got space, pulling the knees in towards the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs, giving yourself a little bit of a hug. Maybe rock a little bit from side to side if you like. And then find our way back to our cross leg position. Totally up to you how you get there. You can really schlep it if you want. And once we're all there, we'll bring the hands to prayer, center of the chest. We'll inhale the prayer up overhead and exhale it down. Little thanks to everyone who joined us. Thanks, guys.
Lovely.